If you've ever found yourself wondering about the strange and unexplained, or felt the prickling sensation that maybe things aren't quite right around you, then stay with me until the very end of this tale. What you're about to hear might just make you question the very fabric of reality in the most unsettling way possible. This story doesn't just linger at the edges of the known, but drags you screaming into the heart of darkness, where the usual rules don't apply and hope feels like a distant memory. And before we dive any deeper, if you appreciate stories that test the limits of what's believable and want to support more chilling adventures, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications, because every share and subscription helps keep these eerie stories alive and brings more spine-tingling content right to your feed. The bar where I worked was a place without a name or identity, only the faintest echo of purpose in a deserted sign that had been blank since long before anyone cared to notice. Regular patrons there looked like shadows of their former selves, drowning in debts, tangled in their messy divorces, or waiting quietly for the slow decay that everyone feared, but no one spoke of. It was a place to get paid in cold, hard cash, rather than broken promises or drink tokens, which was exactly why I was there, pushing through nights wiping chipped glasses while drowning in rent arrears and watching my bank account flatten to zero as if it were dead money. Every hustling scheme I'd tried, from TikTok to Reddit, had failed spectacularly because I lacked the face for tutoring, the charm for streaming, and even drop shipping was a ghost that vanished before I could understand what it was. On this particular night, as I cleaned that glass again, the television above the bar flickered into life, not with the usual doom of sports reruns or weather alerts, but a televangelist shouting and sobbing, waving a crucifix desperately in what looked like a bad theater play. What caught my attention, though, wasn't his theatrics, but the flashing price on screen for his cleansing services, boldly announcing they started at $2,499. The screen cut to a tearful woman praising him, thanking him for silencing the screams within her walls like it was nothing but magic. And with that amount on the screen, I thought about how this man might be pulling in 3 months of my rent, waving a book and yelling at walls. Then I decided that maybe, just maybe, it was time to try my hand at something unconventional and brilliant, or so I thought at the time. When I got home that night, I sat on my mattress and punched into the search bar, "How to do an exorcism real good," expecting ancient texts or official doctrine, but was disappointed to find that most of it said you need to be ordained and don't do it yourself. So I ventured deeper into the weird parts of the internet, finding blogs with names like Sacred Warrior Cleansing Services and Ascended Realm Brotherhood, where guys in robes were charging $500 an hour to wave herbs and throw salt around basements. I thought I could do that. I already had some herbs in my kitchen. Expired parsley flakes and garlic powder, sure, but herbs nonetheless. I wrote myself a shopping list, a Bible, any version, found a beat-up one online for $4. Salt, table salt would do. A plastic crucifix from a Halloween shop, spray-painted gold to not look like a toy. Cheap candles from the dollar store in packs of 10. And Latin phrases copied from demonology forums that I couldn't pronounce, but sounded confident enough when I practiced in the mirror while waving the crucifix, muttering, "Exoso, spiritus immundus," trying hard not to laugh at how ridiculous I looked. The confidence didn't matter. I reckoned anyone desperate enough to call wouldn't have a priest on speed dial, and probably wouldn't know what a real exorcism looked like. I created a Craigslist listing under the name Brother Elias, biblical and fake enough to deter suspicion, offering no spirit too dark, No presence too strong, guaranteed results, and went to bed thinking it would be days before anyone heard of me. But within 6 hours of waking, the phone rang at noon. A timid, breathy voice, nervous about banging in whispers late at night in her empty house, convinced a restless spirit might be lurking. Someone who lived alone and definitely believed in such things because horror movies say so. I jotted down the address, told her brother Elias would be there within the hour, then Googled furiously to figure out the distance while borrowing my neighbor's beat-up Civic that smelled like some forgotten graveyard of old socks and beef jerky, rehearsing phrases like, "Be gone, foul spirit," and "I cast you back into the abyss." Though I had no clue where this abyss was or if it took returns, I arrived at her small, dilapidated house with cracked shutters and a vibe lost since the Cold War. She answered in a floral bathrobe and pink rollers, eyes darting like she expected demons to follow, whispering relief that I had arrived for this secret operation. I unpacked my props, plastic crucifix, salt, candles, pretending every move was sacred while murmuring botched Latin phrases that didn't seem to faze her. I sprinkled salt in corners, waved the Bible near the ceiling fan, and shouted into the dark closet for effect, while she gasped like real demons might already be melting. The noise was loudest in the kitchen, and when I investigated behind the fridge, a massive, smug rat blinked at me as if daring me to prove my worth as a priest. I told her to leave. It was a demon more evil than many I'd faced before, or so I lied, tossing the rat outside as if I'd banished a malevolent spirit, collecting $200 in folded cash stuffed in a Kleenex like some clandestine deal. From that moment on, calls flooded in with increasingly strange requests, each encounter with noisy pipes or odd neighbors masquerading as ghosts, voices that were just televisions left on, and possessed mirrors blamed on stubborn glare. I upgraded my toolkit, wooden crucifix instead of plastic, secondhand priest's coat unbuttoned for style, memorized Latin phrases that impressed when spoken quickly enough, thoroughly convinced this was a brilliant scam for hopeful fools. One evening as I microwaved instant noodles, a tense call came from a stranger on the edge of town, offering double rate for an exorcism in a house long vacant and plagued by dark energy after some personal incident he wouldn't discuss. Eager for the cash, I grabbed my wooden crucifix, fresh candles, hopped into that Civic whose check engine light mocked my reckless nature, and headed to the rickety chain-link fenced house where windows were boarded up and an old satellite dish lay broken on the ground. Inside, the smell was so foul I couldn't find words, dust thick and furniture hidden under sheets in a silent tomb of decay. The man, neat and composed, handed me $100 up front and followed me silently as I lit candles, sprinkled salt around door frames, and read passages from the Bible aloud like a fake priest with surprisingly real dread. Suddenly the hallway door slammed behind me, then the kitchen door shook violently. A plate shattered on the floor, and the air chilled with an unnatural wind that stole my breath and pried at my courage. The front door was locked tight, trapping me inside as my heart raced and the man's eyes widened in terror. From the shadows emerged her, floating with no feet touching the floor, face twisted and half hollowed out, with black eyes oozing thick sludge that vanished before it hit her chin, her soaked dress clinging like a nightmare come to life. Instinctively, I hurled salt, hoping for a miracle, but it passed harmlessly through her ethereal form. She ignored me completely, fixating on the man who trembled as she suddenly collided with him, sending him into convulsions and levitating above the floor in silent horror. Frozen and powerless, I grabbed the nearest candle stub and my Bible, but before I could act, I fled through the still locked front door, which this time opened with deceptive ease, as if the entity was letting me escape. I fled into the night, driving so erratically I nearly crashed, my mind torn between disbelief, guilt, and the crushing fear of what I'd witnessed. I called the police anonymously, worried for the man but unable to confess the truth of ghosts and possession. The officer reported the man was fine, meditating quietly, no evidence of haunting. But as dawn broke, I drove past that house and saw him standing by the window, smiling slowly with a head that moved unnaturally smooth, like a puppet on strings. That sight broke whatever resolve I had to keep this madness going. I deleted every ad, retired Brother Elias, and threw out the candles, knowing some doors, once opened, never truly close. Maybe I wasn't cut out for the holy arts after all.